And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with Pat O'Keefe, Misty Connor, and your calls this hour. Pat, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us. And Misty, you with us?
Yes, sir.
That's great. How well do you two know each other in terms of witchcraft? Start with you, Pat.
We know each other really well as in terms of everything. We're very close. They're like my little paranormal children, if you will. Both she and her sister Ashley, I love them dearly, and they're very spiritual. The first time I ever met them, I knew they had a great gift. Both of them, and they're both phenomenal psychics and mediums, and they're very spiritual, like I said, so just love them both.
All right, we'll start with calls, and I'll let both of you answer the question, and I'll just direct it to each and every one of you. Let's go to Tom on the Big Island of Hawaii to get us started. Hey, Tom, go ahead.
Hey, aloha, guys, and I've been wanting to share this story with somebody since October of 1987.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and I was in the Marine Corps. I was a sergeant stationed at Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station. Now it's Marine Corps Base Hawaii. And we had just, the unit I was in was 3rd Marines. And we had just returned from a 6-month deployment to Okinawa. So after a deployment like that, the majority of the battalion will go off for vacation for 30 days. And I remained, because I had no family, so I remained behind as a skeleton crew. And if anyone knows anything about Kaneohe Bay, that whole peninsula is very, very, has a lot of mana on it. So I just wanted to just put that out there as I continue with the story. So one day I was doing my rounds, and I noticed these 2 Marines in my unit. They were messing around with a Ouija board. And the reason why I called us in, because I heard the lady mention something about a Ouija board.
Yeah.
So they challenged me to ask. I was the sergeant of the day, right? So I was in charge of the security for that area, the base for the day. So I was armed, and they just said, "Hey, Sergeant, ask it a question." And I did. So I asked the Ouija board what my mother's maiden name was, and her last name was Bradley, and the Ouija board spelled out Brdly, and I'd never been affected by something, I think, emotionally, or spiritually, but just to throw this out there, too, when I was in high school, I had a friend of mine, and she experienced, she was hit by a car and died from being struck by a car, and she really delved deeply into Ouija boards. So it's something that stuck with me for a really long time. I just wanted to share this story with you guys and just maybe get some thoughts on it.
All right, thank you, Tom. Let's get a little feedback. Let's start with you, Pat.
Tom, I don't think people, okay, my grandmother, I said she was born in 1919. There was a whole process for working with the Ouija board for her. I mean, there was protective things. She said a prayer. I mean, she didn't open it up. Most people today, they get a Ouija board or a spirit board. They'll put it on the table and say, "Come one, come all." And it's like the bottom falls out of the board, and anything can come in. You have to go through a process. It's a very powerful tool. It is a tool. It's one that I do not recommend unless, you have been on this path for many, many years, and you're very, very familiar with what this tool can do. It's like having a howitzer, if you're talking guns, versus a 22. You see what I'm saying? If you're doing pendulum work. So it can be profound. I walked in once. I was with a group of investigators. I walked in once to a house that had a lot of really negative activity. And when I walked in, they were on the Ouija board. And the first thing, they didn't know I was even there. I was an add-on at the last minute. And they looked at me, at us, and they said, "Which one of you is Pat?" The board is saying hello. It's a very powerful tool. And so just for your listeners, if you insist upon using this particular tool, at least learn how to use it properly. If you're drawn to it, if you feel that is where your strength lies, that's fine. But you have to prepare yourself.
It's not a toy. It's not a toy.
It's not a toy. That's what I'm saying. It's a very powerful, I don't want to say gun, but a very powerful tool. So, I'm sorry that you lost your friend, and I don't think that her connection with the Ouija board was the cause of her demise. I'm feeling that, at a very spiritual level, but I understand that having had 2 experiences with the board. Also, one other thing, if you do have an experience with the board that is negative, a lot of people will just throw the board away, like that's going to do it. Once you open it up, you have to close the board, and there's even a proper way of disposing of the board, because it's not like you can just say, okay, I'm done, or now I'm afraid, right? I've opened this up, and now I'm afraid, so I'm just going to put it in the trash. You have to close the board. And imagine this, when you are using the board, all of a sudden, if you don't do any of that, and the bottom of that board drops out, so to speak, so that there is darkness there, you are now a light. And because you are the only candle in that darkness, anything can come. You see what I'm saying? So again, just a warning for people. I'm not saying that if you feel that this is truly your gift and your tool, not to use it. I'm just saying prepare yourself to use it. Don't do this haphazardly.
Pat, they're saying that the little boy in the movie The Exorcist, that the movie was based on William Blatty's book, played with the Ouija board before all this happened. What do you think of that?
I think that I could absolutely look. That's not the only case where the Ouija board comes into play. If you really start looking at, this, George, if you start looking at paranormal history, so to speak, people get themselves into trouble. And you take, especially somebody like who's young, starting to go through puberty, they have that incredible, amount of energy around them that we all get when we're going through that, transformation from child to young adult. And so you have that energy, and you're open. You've just opened this doorway to another world that you do not understand, and you don't know how to close that door. So, I could definitely see something like that happening because it has, and it's happened on multiple occasions.
Let's go to Cornelius in Alexandria, Louisiana. Hello there, Cornelius.
Hey there, George. And I got to salute you. And that Donna Walker, she's the greatest call screener. She's taking Tommy Danheiser's place, so y'all can head to Columbus. So I hope y'all have a happy Friday and everything, and Saturday for your show and everything. Misty and Pat, I was just telling Donna, the call screener, they call me the God, Guns, and Gold Man, the Bible, Bullets, and Beans Man. And my people came up from Black Appalachia in Kentucky and everything. And they had, my grandma could make these poultices and stuff and made dandelion wine and all like that. And I want to ask you, just like you were saying, don't use the Ouija board or nothing like that. And there are 3 things that I use. That's the prayer protection, Psalm 91, the Lord's Prayer, like you were mentioning, and also today's the 13th, Friday the 13th. Proverbs has a day for each day, and use the 13th proverb. So my question for you, because George knows I'm into the end times and stuff, and he had that guy on the digital currency, which I believe it will lead to the mark of the beast. Do you believe that we're in the end times and the mark of the beast and the Antichrist is coming? George, God bless Coast to Coast AM. God bless you, Pat and Misty.
We'll give this to you, Misty. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, Thank you, sir. It is so nice to hear somebody from Kentucky. We love that. We love that state very much so, being in the Appalachian. I'm going to tell you, sir, if you look at the Bible, the things that are happening now, I have been taught since I was little, because a lot of people don't believe that when we take the term witches, we don't, or Grady women, that maybe we haven't been educated in the Bible. We are. Honey, I grew up Pentecostal. So the one thing that I was told from a young age is the ends of times. And the weird thing is we have been at discussions with other witches, me, Pat, and another witch, and we were discussing, and Pat got very into this, and this lady did too. Not to talk for you, Pat, but and we think about these things too. Whether it is coming from the Bible or things like that, we cannot deny there are signs that things are changing. That is true. The energy, I believe it started in COVID times. It probably started way before then, but the big popularity or the big majority of us probably said at that time because we had to set with our thoughts and we had to set with our things. It wasn't the normal life. And then there was so many energy shifts and so many things are coming forward now that are just amazing. Like, oh, my goodness, on the UFO front, or I don't even think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's changed so quickly, the names of it. So there's so many things that there is a change coming, whether it is biblical, which I do, you can't deny that there are things that are matching up, especially with the current state of things. The currency, that was one of the things that were, once we all go to one, it is a very big sign that I've always been told about. Some of the struggles that are happening now on the fronts of other countries, these are also things. So you can't deny that. But you can't deny the energy shift either. There is something coming. We can all feel it, especially spiritual people or maybe not even spiritual people. You know there's something coming. So, yes, sir, I think there is something coming. Do I think that it is the biblical end or how things are going to go? Well, I don't think any of us know that until it happens. So, yes, sir.
Let's go to Robert in Michigan, east of the Rockies. Hey, Robert, go ahead.
Hi. First of all, George, I'd like to say thank you for your show. As somebody who has cancer, your show gets the only thing that gets me through the night sometimes, so I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Robert.
I'm sitting in a truck, and I'm very cold. My blower motor just went out, so I'm sorry you hear my voice shaking, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
Ladies, good morning. As somebody who's Scot-Irish, and my line goes back to you're familiar with Hatfields and McCoys. I'm from the Hatfield side. So I'm very curious about what your show is tonight. Sorry, I'm freezing to death right now. I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to ask this respectfully, ladies. The Bible has a lot of references to witchcraft, and none of it is good. And I'm trying respectively to understand. You're saying you come from a Pentecostal background, and you're referencing scripture, and I'm trying to juxtapose that. Does that make sense? And I'm trying to understand how you're doing one yet doing the other. If I could just ask you to speak to that, because to me that's a conflict, and I'm trying to be respectful. Does that make sense?
You take that, Pat. Go ahead.
It makes perfect sense, and I understand where you're coming from. But here's the thing. The Bible that we have today has been through a lot of hands and a lot of different, translations from ancient Aramaic through, ancient Greece or Greek. I mean, all the way Latin. So, and then it was in the hands of the most popular book was King James, and so we have a lot of words that meant something else. One was, the common word for witch, what we see as witch in the modern Bible. There was a connection to poisoner. They looked at this person as a poisoner, and that was really primarily, the connection. And then things changed, and of course we have books left out of the Bible, the Gnostic Gospels. There's so much to that. I'm going to tell you something, and here's the truth. I know that I love God. I pray to God. I meditate. A large part of my life is spent in meditation and trying to connect with God. And the one thing that organized religion couldn't give me is this personal connection that I now feel with God. I don't have a middleman. I don't have to sit in a bench in church and wait for the word of God to strike the preacher, and then he gives that word and it goes out to me. I'm able to be the happy little heretic, which, by the way, just meant back in the day, connecting with God without the need for a priest.
It sounds like the name of a new book, The Happy Little Heretic.
The happy little heretic. There you go. But, and I think that there are many ways to the center also. I mean, even the Pope recently came out and said, good works really do count. And like Misty said, look at the person. What are they bringing into the world? Are they bringing joy to people? Are they helping people? Do they live a positive path? Because let me tell you something about negative energy. It can come in the form of a priest. It can come in the form of a preacher. It can come in the form of your neighbor. But look at their deeds. Don't ever look at what someone says. And there are way too many people that hide behind the cloak of God himself. And I even heard, I have an angelic presence, which is my spirit guide. And I even heard that once in connection with someone, and it ended up to be true. He ended up beating his wife to the point she had to be hospitalized, and he was found out by the community. So all I'm saying is I have the thing in the Bible that's mentioned many, many times, and that is faith. I know there is a God, and I love God, and I feel God's love. So that's all I can tell you.
Let's go next to Bill in Los Angeles. Hey, Billy, go ahead.
Hey, George. Picking up on where the previous caller, I think his name is Pat, was talking about. With a slight twist. As you know, George, I'm a former journalist and history teacher, and I studied the Bible extensively in my college days. I learned Hebrew and Greek, and Pat was exactly, and I say this, by the way, as a non-religious person at this point, that Pat is exactly right in one sense, and I'm looking at my old Bible at Deuteronomy 18, and it mentions everything that Pat and Misty mentioned, conjurers, witches, enchanters, divination. It's clear that they're describing what Pat and Misty are talking about. But what I'm saying is I don't really care what Pat and Misty do or what they personally believe. It doesn't matter to me. But just as an objective truth, it is not compatible with the Old Testament. There is no compatibility with what they're saying and the book of Deuteronomy. But that doesn't bother me because I don't take the book of Deuteronomy any more seriously than any other religious position. But I'm just saying as a matter of textual accuracy. And by the way, in Hebrew and Greek, the words mean the same thing as they were translated to in English, unlike some other terms that have been definitely shown to be wrong in the King James Version and English versions. But these are correct. So, I say if it makes them happy, let them do it. But they cannot truthfully say that it's compatible with traditional Christianity or even with the Old Testament. And I don't think they're really even trying to say that. But I just want to clarify that. And, I hope they're happy in what they do.
Good point, my friend. We're going to come back and take final calls with Pat O'Keefe and Misty Connor in just a moment. And welcome back, George Norrie, along with Pat O'Keefe and Misty Connor. Pat, how can people once again see the Season of the Witch documentary?
All righty. If people would like to watch this, and it really is a good doc, it's getting great reviews, they can go to Tubi, and they can actually stream it free. Or if they don't want commercials, they can go to Amazon Prime, where they can purchase it. But Tubi, it is free, so I hope everybody will watch it.
All right, let's go back to the calls. First-time caller Mary in Los Angeles. Hi, Mary. Go ahead.
Hi, George. Hi, ladies. Thank you for listening to me. Yes, I'm really interested in knowing how strong our ancestors have an influence on us. I was adopted at 5 years old, and I'm an old lady now, and my children want to know things that I don't really know, so I've been doing my DNA researching, and I'm finding out that even though I was born in Philadelphia, I know that my Amish or Mennonites raised me till I was 5. But I know a lot of the things that you're saying. I'm also finding out that on my mother's side, my great-grandfather, his family came from the West Indies. So I'm really mixed with a lot of different energies. And I don't really believe in bad or negative energies, but because I want to see good from everything that affects me. But I just feel like my earthbound tethers are becoming looser quicker. And I've been so blessed by my Creator, my Heavenly Father, because I survived malignant melanoma, amputating my breast for breast cancer, 7 spinal surgeries, and I have stone rods in my spine that really keep me standing up straight, even though I'm old. But during one of those spinal surgeries, I was cradled in the arms of our Lord. And he told me that I need to return to Earth to complete my missions, but always remember to know that to love is all there is time for. But I still don't know what my mission is, but I do love.
Misty, let me give that to you. How do you find out what your mission might be?
I tell you what, first of all, Mary, I think it is so beautiful. Thank you for calling in, and I think that love is a beautiful place to start from. And I'm glad I got this question because a lot of us are here asking the same question, why are we here, right? And the first thing you said is you were trying to do DNA research and things like that. So this is a perfect time for you to be able to connect with those ancestors, connect with that. So what I suggest that you do, and I think this will help you on your journey greatly, is take a little time for yourself. Just no distractions. You know how everything all around us and stuff, just take some time, just you time. It could be in the bathtub. It can be sitting at your kitchen table, anywhere that you find peace, right? And you just ask. You say, please, my ancestors, my guardian angels, my God, what would you like? What would you like for me to know? Give me a sign. Just keep doing this until you will feel that connection. One day, you're going to go out there and you're going to be like, man, why is this sticking out to me? And then follow that. That's how you get in tune with the other side. It's simpler, but also more complicated. This is a really unique process, but the one thing is to listen. So just calm everything around you. Honor your ancestors. This time of year, the veil is so thin, and those ancestors would love to be honored. So if you're really trying to reach out to some, to find your mission and what you're supposed to be here for, everybody's here for a reason, darling. And the one thing is if you are here, you may be impacting all kinds of people around you, especially if you're working from love. So thank you for calling in, and I hope this helps you.
Next up, Eric's in Indiana. Welcome to the show. Hello, Eric.
Hello, George. Great guest tonight. I just want to say that I think that the Bible has got a lot of common sense to it. Jesus did. I think God wanted us to be like a whole lot like Jesus, and I think that's what it will really take to be able to go to heaven, really. But and I think that the Ten Commandments is a good rule to live by, all 10 of them. And I just think that some things in the Bible though is contradicting. Maybe it's because, like she said earlier, one of your guests, that the Bible's been through a lot of hands, so I just think it takes a lot of common sense of the Bible, and God will be the only one really that knows, that I would say that God would be the only one that would really know what he means in a lot of things of what the Bible says.
Your thoughts, Pat?
I agree completely. By the way, I love your energy. The caller's energy is very open. I can tell that this is a spiritual person. I mean, he does think about his own mortality and connection to divine source and what comes next. And anyway, I'm just commending him for having such an open heart and being such a spiritual person himself. And I agree with what he said.
Mayatte's with us in New York. Hello, Mayette.
Yes, hello, George and ladies. What a excellent and fascinating show. I have a three-parter. George, please take a note, if you would, and I'll listen over the air. This is so exciting. I'm looking so forward to reading your books and seeing the documentary and the idea of God as a goddess and a woman and independent and strong is just so in tune. But my first part of my question has to deal with the dandelion making your best cup of tea and what appears on your holiday table, okay? And the other part would be speak on your use of the pendulum, because I heard you mention that, and I'm fascinated by the pendulum and its potentialities. And lastly, are you familiar with that inside-out mirrored box that helps keep someone who's not a good character at bay? And if you have my three questions, I'll listen over the air. Thank you.
What was the name of that box?
I don't know the name of the box, but it's a box where the mirrors, it's all mirrors, but the mirrors go to the inside, and you put the name of the person who you're trying to protect yourself.
I think that's the psychomenthium.
Well, okay, I like their thoughts on that and whether they have that available.
Okay. First of all, the dandelions. Pat?
Dandelion tea. Well, you can just go right out in your yard and pick those dandelions. And my granny, what she'd do, she'd come in and she'd crumple up the leaves so it got kind of the oils going, and then she'd put them in her little tea ball, and she'd steep herself a nice cup of tea. In fact, dandelion and then also sassafras, which is really, really prevalent in the mountains here. There was an old saying with sassafras, which is another tea, that if you had yourself a nice cup of sassafras tea in March, that you wouldn't have to see a doctor all year. So there's a lot of good things out there that we just don't know about anymore, unfortunately. So that's the best way to do the tea.
Misty, how about you on the pendulum?
The pendulum. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I think that any tool, and I'm going to quote Pat here because, like she said earlier, she is kind of our paranormal mom, our witchy mom. So when we first come into this, she said, "Ladies, you got a gift. Come on with it," because we were in the broom closet for a minute. We just thought we were unique on this, just normal on the farm. But apparently to the regular world, we were unique. And she said, it doesn't matter what tool you pick. Your magic's and your intuition's gonna come through it. Pendulums, I think, are a great way to start. But do understand, if I'm going to take this super, super scientific, even our heartbeat can move that. But if you get a steady beat, and you actually, not with your heart, but if you can, I guess, communicate and allocate what the movements are, and then you consistently do it, then you can get answers. But just like any other tool, I will warn you, if you are not experienced or if somebody hasn't taught you how to do these things, you need to seek somebody who can help you to make sure that what you're dealing with and what you're talking with is what you want to be talking with and not something else. Any of the tools that you use, you have to make sure that it's allocated for the purposes you want, and not something else that's talking to you. So pendulums are really good. Actually, to tell you the truth, that kind of goes into other things we do in the mountain, as in dowsing. But we use those with rods, or we can find wells, waters. We call them water witches up here. So it's just whatever tool that you would like to use, but just make sure that you do it in a way that you're always safe.
Have either of you heard of the psychomanthiums?
Sir, are you talking about the box with the mirrors in it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask me on this. Okay, so in our world, and I hope I speak for Pat too, but she could probably have more on this. We use mirrors a lot in the mountains because it's easy, right? If you think about it, when somebody passes away, the first thing they do is they cover the mirrors because they believe that a soul can get trapped in them, or it could be a portal. It also, if you're doing spell work and you really want to protect somebody, you make sure that you put a mirror in front of them so it casts anything back, okay? So you're really protecting somebody. But if you have somebody who is doing harm to you and others, yes, sir, you put them, you can use something that's going to signify them, such as a picture. It can even be their handwriting. It can be their hair. Anything that would be of them, you put it inside that, and it kind of doesn't let them do harm to outside. So, yes, that is a big thing. I have seen that be used in the mountains really, really close to us, but it's also been used in everyday witchcraft, too. A lot of people do. The quickest way you can help yourself is to get yourself a mirror. It can repel, it can cloak, it can also just capture, too. Yes.
Next up, we've got Gabriel in Spokane, Washington. Hey, Gabe, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, Gabriel.
You've already addressed food magic, basically, with eating roots and whatnot. So I wonder what you have to say about the psychedelic realm, like the fungi from yoga.
Which one of you two might want that, Pat or Misty? Psychedelics.
I'll answer this in short form. People in the mountains, unfortunately, now with the advent of OxyContin, there has been a lot of chemicals, if you will, in the mountains. But as far as mountain magic, we really aren't known for that. We're more about, the healing aspects rather than connecting with divine source through like psychedelics, like mushrooms and that sort of thing. Now, I'm just saying in general, but I can tell you, these old grannies in the mountains, they did, there just wasn't any of that amongst certainly my people, and I think Missy's people too. Now, we were big drinkers. We were Scots-Irish. I'm not saying. But as far as psychedelics, now, if you fast forward to the modern realm, I'm hearing more and more about people's experiences, like with ayahuasca, and the ability to let go in a very real sense the corporeal body and allowing their soul to expand and to connect with the universe. So I'm certainly not talking about this from a moral equivalency, but simply from the way that we practiced and continue to practice in the mountains.
Mary in New Jersey, quick question. Mary, go ahead.
Hello. How's everybody? I just wanted to ask, what century would the people have been really coming into the mountains to stay there? Would it have been like the 1600s or 1700s?
Misty, you want to take it or you want me to take it?
You can take that, Pat.
Well, I can tell you that when they came into the mountains, it was about in the 1700s and early 1700s, and let me explain why. I mean, I'm talking about, when they really started coming in the mountains. Because when people first got here, if you'll remember, the people that first arrived here, they were all rich people. And so when they got here, they didn't know how to survive here. And so, then they started bringing over craftsmen, what that would be called middle class or lower class people. Well, when they came in and kept coming in, there were no good lands left. The nice flat land was already taken. And so our Scots, Irish, German, African American, just all of these different heritages went into the mountains probably, early 1700s and then on from there, and started, claiming the land and starting to make it livable.
All right, from Pat and Misty, good luck with what you do. First-time guests on the show. You did, both of you, splendidly. Keep in touch with us, okay?
Thank you.
And, folks, the documentary is called
Season of the Witch.
You got it. And the books, Appalachian Granny Witch Magic and Appalachian Conjuring by Pat O'Keefe and Misty Connor, two separate books, and take advantage of that. And thanks for listening, folks, and thanks again for participating in the program. For Adam Thompson, Dan Galante, Donna Walker, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lohnert, Sean Ladouceur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, and George Knapp. I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.